shocked.
Welcome back, Crackle Addicts. I'm Lupine Fiasco. This is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we are playing Aurora Shooting Star. For anyone who is new to the channel, what we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I will talk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, explaining my thought processes for the lines I would take, and compare that to the lines I did take. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future, taking down paper events, and walking away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the deck I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. If you'd like to engage further, there is a link to my Twitter, to my Discord, and to my Patreon. Without further ado, let's jump right into the action. We won the die roll here and will be going second. This game, like so many of the games on my channel, are really just an exercise in pattern recognition and thinking through our plays before we make them. We are going to lose this game. Losses are always the most exciting games to review, but having just watched this one back to be able to give you better reviews, this was extremely winnable. And we're going to point out where those spots were that we could have made improvements, and you can all take this with you going forward. I've certainly learned a lot from playing through this game the first time, and I've learned even more from watching it back. So immediately what we notice about this hand is that we have the ability to make an embodiment of lightning at instant speed, which is something we are actively interested in doing. We want to play our burn up as the instant side shock on our opponent's turn. That qualifies as having played a lightning card, which lets us pitch 2 into Aurora to make an embodiment of lightning, and we have an excellent opportunity to do it. Aurora is using her action point to play Gone in a Flash, and she's probably going to put some cards into activating her own ability to make her own embodiment, but there is no follow-up to the Gone in a Flash. So if we block this for 3 with an Arcanic Shockwave, play Shock, and then pitch our remaining 2 cards, we don't get punished by Aurora having a follow-up attack because she has no action point. Now, she could, in theory, play a Blink, get her action point back, and then attack us with something, but that's so out of left field, it's so unlikely to happen, that there's no way we play around it. We make a really bad choice, we don't take any damage, but we also don't make an embodiment, and that's setting us up very poorly for success as we draw into a pretty unplayable hand. This is a really unfortunate hand. We don't have a blue, so we can't make an embodiment that lets us attack with Shockwave and Snatch. We could use our snaps, but even then, we aren't really creating a bad situation for our Aurora. Ideally, when we're playing our burn up, we have 4 attacks behind it. And in this case, we only have 2, potentially 3, but we have to use our snaps to pull it off. And our Aurora still has a full armor suite. So if we did really want to go ham here, the optimal line is burn up, Shockwave, fuse, use snaps, pitch burn up to attack with Starfall, and then Snatch. Send 4/2/4. We probably get a card and Greaves to stop the Shockwave, Grasp stops Starfall, and then we get 2 more cards to stop the Snatch, and we've taken a good amount of armor. We've taken 3 cards away from our opponent, which not bad, but we used our snaps to do it, and we don't have an arsenal. And what I would like to do is set this second burn up into Arsenal so that I can send the correct 5-card burn up turn next turn. So if we are just trying to maximize damage here, what I want to do is play Burn Up Shock, meld it, then pitch Burn Up to attack with Starfall, or sorry, rather pitch Snatch to attack with Starfall, then play Arcanic Shockwave and fuse it with Burn Up. We tell our opponent that we have a Burn Up in our arsenal, but we get an extra point of damage in, and in these aggro races, that really is the most important thing. There is really no benefit to pitching the Shockwave rather than the Snatch, because our opponent is already incentivized to block the Snatch. So if we send the Shockwave instead, we're just getting an extra 3 point of damage. So this is absolutely the suboptimal play. Sending the Snatch here, if it hits, sure, maybe we draw a blue off the top of our deck and can pitch it into Aurora, but there's no way that the opposing Aurora lets this Snatch hit and they block it out, so we just miss a point of damage. We do get to put a Burn Up into our arsenal and draw into kind of another unfortunate hand. We would love to have an attack to use here to potentially block with 2 attacks with Somersault, or just be able to go a little wider on our Burn Up turn. We've got Aurora sending Shockwave fused with Go Again. We're definitely not pitching into Arcane Barrier. I choose to run Snapdragons in this matchup rather than Greaves, so I can only ever pay for AB2. We're not going to block this. We know that there is a follow-up here. At the very least, we're looking at Sizzle Starfall for 5, and we could think about using our Sigil there. But we have a choice to make. We're going to play our Burn Up Shock. We are looking to hit this turn, so we are in a weird spot where we have really 2 lines of attack that I can see. We either keep all 4 cards, take 5 damage here and go to 30, then our turn is E-Strike for 5, Go Again, bottom Sigil of Suffering, play Electromagnetic Somersault to get E-Strike back into our hand, then E-Strike for 7, bottoming Blink. It's a 4-card 12, it's not incredible, but if the E-Strike for 7 hits, then we push an extra 4 damage from Burn Up. And the problem with that is E-Strike for 5 is a pretty tempting target for Face Purgatory if Aurora has it. And if Aurora does have the Face Purgatory, then we have no follow-up to that. We could pitch Blink, play the Somersault, target E-Strike, pitch Blink into Aurora to make an embodiment, and then attack with Starfall, and we've put Aurora down to 3 cards after the Face Purg, and then the Starfall maybe takes her down to 2 cards in hand because she has to block it, but that's such an awkward loss of value compared to what we can do here, which is play Sigil of Suffering on the Starfall. We prevent 3 points of damage and put Aurora into a position where she either uses her 2 floating to make an embodiment, or 1 of those floating to make pay for Arcane Barrier, and then not be able to make an embodiment. And on our turn with our 3 cards, we pitch Blink into, we play our Burn Up, we pitch Blink to attack with Starfall for 2, we E-Strike for 7, and we are actually holding those 2 resources to pay for AB2 on a Sigil of Suffering. It's a terrible value, but it does potentially put our Aurora into a position where she needs to overblock even with Sigil in case we were able to pay for Arcane Barrier. So what I like doing here, the most value and the most resilient turn to face Purgatory, is to block with Sigil of Suffering, get our hopefully 4 points of block with 1 point of Arcane. We are seeing Aurora really pull the trigger early to make that embodiment, so we are going to get the extra point of block and the point of Arcane, and then we play Burn Up Shock. We Starfall for 2 Go Again, we E-Strike, we hold 2 resources, and we either pay for Arcane Barrier or we make an embodiment of Lightning. Pitching for Grasp is definitely the worst option. I didn't present it because it is a bad option. We get an extra point of damage, but that is much worse than either embodiment or paying for Arcane Barrier, because if we pay for the Arcane Barrier on a sigil, then we prevent 1 point of damage, we deal an extra point of damage, and then we deal 4 extra points of damage. So this is just a suboptimal line. And we'll see, we get the Face Purgatory just as 2, which is really good value for us. That's putting us very far ahead as far as armor is concerned. But we are going to see what Aurora can do with this 7. And keep in mind, if we had 2 floating resources, then Aurora can't make this play. If we have the 2 floating, then we can pay this AB2. We prevent a point of Arcane, so we stay at 34 rather than going to 33, and Aurora takes 5 more points of damage, so we actually go ahead on life, 33 to 31. Or, if we have these 2 floating, Aurora has to overblock. She has to commit maybe another 2 block from hand to cover 6 points and then sigil on top of it. And we can, at that point, we just take the Arcane and we make an embodiment and we're good. We got enough out of Aurora. But here we're in the worst possible position where we used 2 resources to make 1 point of Arcane rather than Go Again, which would have been more value than the Arcane, or 82, which would have been the most value. The hand we draw into is a little unfortunate. We will be able to pay into Grasp, play Sizzle, attack with Starfall, play Channel Lightning Valley in response to the Rune Chant. I would love to be able to block this Arcanic Shockwave. At this point in my list, Sigil of Suffering has been replaced with Heaven's Claws. If I could block 3 here, I would. But at the bare minimum, we get to do something with this hand. So we'll take our 2 here. Aurora's just going to tuck a card into Arsenal. And I would like to pitch Sigil into Grasp and Starfall, and then Arsenal Blink. Neither one is a fantastic card in Arsenal, but I do think that Blink is a little bit better when we draw Gone in a Flash. We actually do get our action point back rather than Sigil of Lightning, which sort of forces us into playing it ahead of time. We kind of tip our hand, we aren't able to hide information as well, and it really does not react. It doesn't play well with Flittering Charge or Gone in a Flash. So we get cards out of Aurora. She is going to 1 card 5 with Somersault. We know that Aurora is holding Heaven's Claws and Snatch, so pretty good for us. And we arsenal the Sigil of Lightning. Aurora playing Arc Lightning. This is going to get 4 points of value, 1 from itself, 2 from Grasp and Starfall, and a 4th from the Snatch. We know Aurora's hand at this point. So we know that we are going to cover the Snatch with Balance of Justice and Dyadic Carapace, and just take the Starfall for 2. We don't want to block from hand. We do want to play Sigil of Lightning from Arsenal so that we get our Embodiment of Lightning. Our turn is going to be Static Shock for 4, Go Again, Somersault, Static Shock for 4. We're hoping that we're going to hit with Channel Lightning Valley. Aurora has no armor left, so it does seem pretty unlikely that she can just block out from hand. I don't want to play a second Channel Lightning Valley this turn. I really don't like overlapping them if I can avoid it, unless I'm looking for something like a big Arc Lightning turn or a big Flicker Wisp turn, just because it's really difficult to pay for both, and especially with these 4 cards, I'm not looking to pitch on this turn. I might end up pitching whatever I draw from the top of my deck into Starfall, but at that point I would have already dealt damage. If I play the Channel Lightning Valley here, for one thing, I walk into Sigil of Suffering, and for another, I'm very dependent on the top of my deck being a lightning card so that I can take the turn I have planned. I can just arsenal this Channel Lightning Valley. I don't need to play it. And we extend the effect rather than kind of risking it this turn. I don't really want to risk it this turn. We draw a Discharge, which we'll just play now. Static Shock for 7 is a point better than Starfall for 2, and then Static Shock for 4. We'll play our Sigil of Solace at the end of the turn to gain 3 life, and then we will arsenal our Channel Lightning Valley. I really like having Channel Lightning Valley against... I like having it in Arsenal really against anyone. It's just a good card to have in Arsenal, but especially against Auroras who have shown me Face Purgatory. The Face Purgatory lists tend to be on 12 blues rather than 9, and because they have 12 blues, they're playing Command and Conquers. And if Aurora or anyone plays Command and Conquer and we have a Channel Lightning Valley in Arsenal, we just get to play it, and that's pretty good. Looking at Starfall for 2 here, we know something with +3 is coming behind this. For our hand, this is a really good turn for us. We're going to get to play Arc Lightning, play Channel Lightning Valley. At this point, we are dealing a point of Arcane and forcing Aurora to give us either a blue for Arcane Barrier or just let us draw. If we deal damage, we get to attack with Second Strike and have that get go again. Lightning Surge or Snatch will get go again from the Arc Lightning. So we don't want to block. Not that any of the cards in our hand even block well, but Arc Lightning, Hold Priority, Channel Lightning Valley, Lightning Surge, Second Strike, whatever comes off the top of our deck, Snatch, is going to be a really good turn. So we're asking for the bill at this point. We are inviting Aurora to just deal as much damage as she can, and then expecting that we are going to be able to turn a 5-card hand into a 6-card hand with a bunch of arcane damage from go again. Aurora's showing us a Somersault. I don't mind blocking with armor here just to continue to get value out of it. We are giving up our ability to have Arcane Barrier by breaking Dyadic Carapace. At the same time, we have no blues in this hand. The game is steadily coming to an end. We're not super interested in the Arcane Barrier. I would like to hold Carapace back. The 1 point of block doesn't really matter, but I do like blocking with Grasp here just to start getting value from our armor, just to make sure we don't die with armor value left on the table. We'll see if Aurora wants to somersault her Entwine Lightning here, maybe get 4 more points of damage. She chooses not to. So we do know that she has a somersault in her arsenal, and that makes me want to close with Snatch rather than open with it. If we didn't know that Aurora had a somersault in arsenal, then I'd be happy to send Snatch first, get 2 cards out of Aurora, and then take the rest of my turn. As it is, we know that Aurora can 1-card block this Snatch. I want to send Lightning Surge instead so that I can try to deal a little damage, turn on Second Strike, draw with Channel Lightning Valley. That's exactly what's going to happen. We draw into a blue, which is fantastic because now we can pitch into Grasp and Starfall. We just added 5 more damage to our turn, and we're continuing to tax Aurora's resources that she's using to pay for Arcane Barrier. So at this point, we're going to play out every card in our hand. We'll follow this Second Strike with, or Starfall with Second Strike, and then we'll play the Snatch as well. And if the Snatch doesn't get blocked, then we'll snap it and assume that if Aurora did have a Sigil of Suffering, she would have used it on the Lightning Surge. But if she does block the Snatch, then we'll just pass the turn. We're not going to snap for 1 extra point of damage. Here we see Aurora block with Heaven Claws and then somersault it, so we know she doesn't have another attack in her hand, or else she would have blocked the Second Strike with it. At this point, Aurora has a Heaven's Claws and 2 cards we don't know, and we are going to throw that Snatch and give Aurora the opportunity to give us her Spring Tunic. Yes, she covers the Snatch, and I wish she couldn't. At the same time, this Tunic is about to have a 3rd counter on it, and if Aurora gives it to us on defense, well, that's even better. She loses at least 2 points of damage on her next turn, or even the turn after, by not being able to attack with Starfall. So either way, we're getting really good value from this snatch. Aurora does give us the Heaven Claws, and she does give us the Tunic. So our turn ends, we're not going to snap. Did a really good job closing up the life point difference. The hand that we draw into does not have natural go again. At the same time, we have a Channel Lightning Valley on the board. We have no Arcane Barrier, so Aurora will get to draw here and can potentially follow this Starfall. But I'm not interested in blocking too. There's a very easy way to sequence this turn, and I'm going to screw it up, and it's really embarrassing. You might have an inclination to pitch your current funnel into Grasp of the Arknight so that you make a rune chant, and then you play Gone in a Flash, and you're dealing 1 and 4, and you are incentivizing your opponent to give you a card to stop the Arcane Barrier, and they probably don't, because giving 1 full card to stop 1 point of damage is a terrible rate, and you draw from Channel Lightning Valley. But you know what else is really cool? Just sending 3 4-power attacks when your opponent doesn't have armor, because then they can't stop the breakpoints, so you draw either way. If we have these 4 cards, say Aurora commits everything to defense and we aren't able to punch through. If we attack with Gone in a Flash, snap it, pitch current funnel to Starfall, use 2 floating resources to make an embodiment of lightning, then play Gone in a Flash and Lightning Surge, we're pushing a 4-card 14. Aurora has to give us a card to not die, and we're throwing 3 4-power breakpoints, which means we're either getting multiple cards from Aurora, or she is going to take damage, and we are going to get our Channel Lightning Valley trigger. We don't need to pitch into Grasp, because again, pitching into Grasp is the lowest value play we have available. Now, when you have this Lightning Surge and we have more time in the game, we think, okay, we can pitch into Grasp, we're going to arsenal the Lightning Surge, we have time, we don't need to convert everything offensively. But we're at 9 life, our opponent has Channel Lightning Valley, and they have 5 cards. We need to be converting everything to offense. We don't have time to play it safe and play for value and tuck a Lightning Surge into Arsenal. We wanted to attack with everything this turn. So say Aurora is at 3 here because she didn't get hit with a rune chant, but say that this Gone in a Flash has go again. Aurora goes down to 1. Now we attack her with a Lightning Surge, and she has to give us at least 1 card to not be dead, and very likely she has to give us 2. We draw into a really good hand. We can send a 3-card 12 after blocking 5 with Gone in a Flash and Sizzle, but our opponent has 4 cards and a Channel Lightning Valley, and we're only at 9. We have 1 point of armor left. We're probably just dead. There is a chance that we are dead. Here we have Arc Lightning, triggering Channel Lightning Valley. It's a bad start. We can't prevent any of the arcane, and second Arc Lightning is just going to put this to bed, assuming that Aurora is able to play out these cards. Burn Up Shock is going to deal 3 points of damage between the shock and then 2 pings of arcane from double Arc Lightning. And if our opponent had had to give us 2 cards to not be dead to the Lightning Surge that we should have been able to play, we would have won this game. So quite a few mistakes made this game. Turn 0, we didn't make an embodiment. We could have. Later on, we did not hold our 2 resources to pay the Arcane Barrier for Sigil of Suffering, which we could have done, and we would have gotten 5 points of value compared to 1 point of value that we got from a rune chant. On the second to last turn, we didn't use our resources to make an embodiment of lightning that would have let us push 3 more damage, which is what we needed to take a card away from Aurora so that she couldn't kill us. So this game was all about poor use of resources, suboptimal use of the resources available to us. And it wasn't that we got taken by surprise. It wasn't that our Aurora was on a strategy that we weren't expecting. It's just that we didn't count. and we didn't really pay attention to our hand and what our turn looks like. It's something I'm trying to work on. A lot of it comes from playing too quickly. This happens to me a lot less frequently in paper. On Talishar play, I do find that I play much faster, and it is usually to my detriment. There really is no benefit to playing that quickly, especially as an aggro deck. You can see our total game time was 14 minutes in a paper tournament. Your round time is 55 minutes. We could have taken 3 times as long on every turn and still come in under time. Now, do we need to take that long per turn cycle? Of course not. There are going to be a lot of turns that play themselves out. But on something like this, on that last turn, the second to last turn of the game before we died, we could have put a little more thought into it, counted out, said, you know what, we can push 3 more damage if we make an embodiment rather than a rune chant. And when we have our opponent so close to lethal, that is the most important thing we can do, is figure out how do we take cards away from them so that they can't kill us. But more than that, missing the turn 0 embodiment was just silly. Burn Up is a really cool card when you play it at action speed, but making an embodiment at instant speed with shock is usually an even better play on turn 0. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something. I learned a ton from this one that I am already implementing in the games I'm playing now. If you did learn or enjoy, be sure to shock that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out a lot. I have a Discord. I have a Twitter, which are free to join as well. I have a Patreon where for a small monthly cost, you get a sideboard guide, bonus videos, all sorts of content. Whatever you do, be sure to catch me again on the next daily FaB gameplay. And until then, take care.